I am Jim Collison, and live from the Gallup campus here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Call to Coach, recorded on November 20th, 2015. Call to Coach is a resource for those who want to help others discover and use their strengths. We have Gallup experts and independent strengths coaches share tactics, insights, and strategies to help coaches maximize the talent of individuals, teams, and organizations around the world. If you have questions during the webcast, we do have a live chat room that's available for you. It's right below the main video window if you're watching live. Available. It'd be great if you'd log in, a little login button down the bottom left-hand side, and that will get you in. Just put your name in there so we know who you are, and we will be taking live questions during the program today. If you're listening to the recorded version or have questions about custom strengths coaching solutions for small, medium, or large organizations, of course, you can always contact us. Just send us an email, coaching@gallup.com, or you can use there's a contact form right there on the live page where you're at right now. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center. That's just Gallup-Strengthscenter.com. For all your coaching resources and StrengthsFinder training needs, you can also catch the video in both streaming and now downloadable audio for offline listening. Recapture that time you're in the car, on a train, and a plane using your mobile device. Access to that, as well as all our past shows, are available along with our mobile app. Forget what your top 5 is. You can now log in, download our apps, log in with the account that you created when you took your top 5. It'll be right there on your phone. A great way to reminder to do that. All those links are available at our coach's blog, coaching.gallup.com. Heather Wright is our host today. Heather works as a senior learning and development consultant with Gallup here on the Riverfront. Heather, always great to have you on Call to Coach, and welcome back to another one.
Thank you, Jim, and I'm very excited about our guest today. I had the pleasure of working with Sarah off and on throughout her curriculum work to become a certified strengths coach at Gallup, and I'm excited to introduce everybody to her. Sarah Robinson is an organizational and developmental expert. She's one of the first few Gallup-Certified Strengths coaches that made it through the certification. It was like something lit inside of her after that very first course, and she couldn't get that certification done fast enough. And I think when you learn more about Sarah and her strengths, you'll understand why. You know, when I think about Sarah's bio, for those of you who are curious, Sarah's been in this business for over 20 years, really thinking about organizational developmental training for companies that are for-profit, not-for-profit, the whole gamut. And one of the things that I love most when you read Sarah's bio or when you talk to her about the work she does, it boils down in a nutshell to the maximizer in me loves this part about Sarah. It's really helping her clients more fully maximize their potential and achieve their goals. Simple and sweet, but she uses so many different ideas and tactics to get there. The other thing that you are going to be interested to hear Sarah talk a little bit about is she's an author now. She has recently published the book Unstuck at Last, Using Your Strengths to Get What You Want. And don't we all want to get what we want? So I'm really curious for Sarah to tell us more about what prompted her to write the book, what people can expect if they buy the book, and just to help us explore her life as a coach. So to know Sarah a little bit better, you might be able to guess in a few minutes if you listen to her. Top 5: competition, maximizer, achiever, activator, and significance. So respecting all those themes, without further ado, I would love to introduce you to Sarah Robinson. Sarah, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's just such a pleasure to be here. I have to have full disclosure and let you know that obviously I'm a heavy influencer. I don't know if you noticed, but of those top 5, 4 of them are influencing themes. My 6 and 7 are also influencing themes. So I call myself the crazy influencer. Of course, when you first really realize and that really comes home, you think deficiency model, like, oh my gosh, this is horrific, right? But now I've embraced that, I am who I am, right? And so it's all good. And what better way to try to influence people than through coaching and writing, right?
Absolutely. It's a perfect platform for your talent. So I always start by asking people about what called you to coach. How did you, you've been a coach for a long, long time, so I'd love to hear what drew you to coaching in the first place, and then maybe a little bit about what drew you to be a Gallup Certified Strengths Coach.
So great question. I really considered myself a consultant. I was doing mostly employee satisfaction surveys for 20 years, and my specialty, as you said, is organizational behavior. For the last 13 years, I've also taught a course about organizational behavior at IUPUI, Indiana University, Purdue University at Indianapolis. So that was really my sweet spot. That was my wheelhouse. And what called me to coach is actually a kind of funny story. I was just at the local Barnes & Noble, and I saw this book, Strength Fighter 2.0. And I thought, I should get that. Everyone's talking about it. It's a national bestseller. I won't learn anything about myself, of course, but I just want to be educated for my students and my clients. So I take the book home and take the assessment. Once again, let's just underscore the fact that I'm not going to learn anything about myself. And I get my results. And I immediately wanted to call this Gallup company that was so mean and telling me that I was high competition, because I wanted to let them know that I do have lots of friends and I'm a really nice person. So I couldn't believe that they were actually going to label me as this clawing, mean woman who was stomping on other people as I made my way to the top. It was very offensive to me, and it only took me, I don't know, a few days or weeks to actually really read the definition, and guess what? Do you know what? It doesn't say anything about that in the definition. So when I talk to clients about them having issues with the language, right, with the word choice, it's like, hey, I get it.
I've traveled that path too, huh?
Exactly.
Oh my
Very
God.
authentic. And when I really had to look back at my life, I had probably disassociated myself with my high competition. I was in the human resource field. I was trying to be very client-based, and I thought that I was a high relationship builder. And I kind of call this my sheep in wolf's clothing, or wolf in sheep's clothing, period, right? Because I didn't really want to be high competition. I really saw that after, my academic life, after, getting my college degree and my master's degree, I didn't really think high competition was going to help me in the workplace, in the field that I was in. And so I was dummying that down. I was not really executing my high competition. But when I reflected on my life and the periods when I did have a win-lose situation, where I had more measurement, where I had more feedback, I realized those really were the happiest times of my life. And so it was a profound aha for me.
Wow.
So part of the
I'm
way I got to it was just seeing the book, and then the second part, realizing how important it was. Actually, I tried to get a job with Gallup.
Yeah.
And so I applied for a job. There was a consulting position in Chicago. Indianapolis, Chicago, we're really close. I went through 2 structured interviews on the phone. Everybody usually hates structured interviews because they're very cut and dry. There's little to no feedback. But of course, because I'm in the field I'm in, I know the only kind of valid interview there is a structured interview. So I was really thrilled, and basically the topic was the only area that I'm really a specialist in, which was kind of organizational behavior related questions. So quite frankly, it was a very rewarding process for me. So I went out to Omaha, and it was kind of where the clouds parted and there was singing, and I realized that this was my mothership and I belonged with you guys. Unfortunately, Dean Jones really thought I needed to belong in Chicago, so that was not going to work for either one of us. I really tried to make the play for a buzzing in and out thing, but that's really how I ended up being one of the first 7, because once the opportunity, it really was realizing that Gallup was my mothership, that I had to be with you guys, and if I couldn't be full-time, this was actually probably the next best thing, and what I've really come to realize probably since taking the EP10 is that it's the first best thing. Because I really have a lot of entrepreneurialism in me, and so I don't know that I really would have been the right fit internally.
Oh, what a cool journey. So you said something earlier that makes me, when you talk about that competition theme and the initial reaction to the language of the theme definition, and then later reading and realizing what competition truly is as measured by the Clifton Strengths Finder, I'm curious, when you embrace that competition, talk to me a little bit about your journey and how you've seen what you've seen happen differently. How has your career taken off? How have things changed for you by embracing that you are competition?
Yeah, so almost like a night and day situation, and the metaphor that I really use is one that I've seen discussed in lots of other interviews like this. It's the metaphor of glasses, right? And so in second grade, I didn't realize that I needed glasses, but my second grade teacher, Mrs. Cameron, did, and I thought she was dead wrong. And I could see fine. I'm squinting a little bit, but she does not know what she's talking about. And I get those glasses, and I come home, and I look out my bedroom window, Heather. And did you know that those leaves on the trees, do you know what they look like? They're actually leaves. They were
not
leaves.
Just green blurs.
Not like the big, big green blob that I was drawing in school. And you kind of make yourself sick taking on and off your glasses, right? The first couple of weeks or whatever. And that's how I felt about my strengths initially. It's like, okay, I'm going to be a skeptic, but I'm going to take on and off the glasses of strengths. And see, does this work better for me? And then finally you're just like, forget it, I'm getting sick, I'm just leaving them on. This works pretty well, right? So that's really what I did. And so in my own business, whereas before I had really shied away from some of the win-lose and had placed so much emphasis on the idea of, the pain of not winning, right? And what we know really about high competition people is that it's actually more painful not to even go into the arena. And so getting measurement about even, I have an app on my phone that lets me see how many people go to my website. Everyone go to my website right now. And that kind of thing. I check how many books I sell every day. All those types of little things are motivating to me. And being able to have different pieces of my career that are measurable, and not just obviously how much work you do every year, how much you're making every year is certainly a component of that, but there are lots of other components too. But in making it measurable, I've realized is a key component to what drives me.
Very good. Oh, I love it. And I love the analogy of the glasses, that perspective, how it changes. Very good. So when you think about adding a certified strengths certification, or certified strengths coaching behind your title, talk about that journey. What made you decide that was the right path? It's part of being at the mothership, but in terms of your business, what called you to start using StrengthsFinder in the consulting that you do?
So great question again, and so part of it was that, as I said, a lot of the consulting work I was doing was related to employee satisfaction, and so what ended up happening was that once I became a Gallup-Certified Strengths Coach, I was looking at the same type of client but with a different emphasis. And what I had been seeing in my own business, and part of the reason why I was even open to going to a larger organization and giving up on my own business, which is really what was happening at that moment when I interviewed, was because I felt like that was the way of the world. I saw that many of my clients, I had a very large hospital that was a client, and they came out and said, we're going to Mercer, or we're going to go to another satisfaction survey place that is on a much bigger scale than you, and it was crushing, right? But what I realized was that on another level, and really the wave of the future was personal assessments. People really want to know more about themselves. And the other thing that I really recognized was that because at the time when I was certified, I think we were right under 10 million. So we weren't quite at 10 million strength finders yet, but that there's all this low-hanging fruit. And those are people that know their strengths but have really no formal feedback or anyone to really help them. So I would say probably more than 9/10 of my business comes from plucking that fruit, finding the people that are like already drinking the Kool-Aid. And so one of the veins that I kind of went after initially in Indianapolis was we are a hotbed for sororities and fraternities. Headquarters are stationed here because Indiana gives some sort of crazy tax relief. You don't get charged for your membership dues. They don't have to pay taxes on that. So they all end up headquarters here. Well, guess what? Those people love StrengthsQuest and StrengthsFinder because they have to do tons of development. So I didn't have to start at, well, there's this tool, and guess what it's called, and right? You start at, I had them at hello. So that was a very productive vein. But then once the word got out, it was really just other businesses referring me to other businesses that were already interested in, one, learning more about their employees on an individual basis, but having a budget and being in touch with the importance of this type of work.
Nice. So talk a little bit about your coaching impact. Do you have stories or examples that are near and dear to your heart that you think, oh, this is one of the favorite people I've ever coached, or here's a consulting project that just changed something in a very special way?
Yeah, so of course you do. And it's a little bit like your strengths. You hate to pick favorites, but then of course you do. And so organizationally, I have two companies that have been almost just ideal corporations to work with, almost since the very beginning of becoming certified. And one of the things that I've really benefited from is obviously their commitment to really making it a cultural lifestyle for their organization. It's not just the one and done. It's that they're really trying to do something long-term and meaningful. And mostly probably because of my organizational behavior background, I care so much and know so how profound it is to have a strong culture. And when you can connect it to strengths, that's a real win, right? What you're saying is we care about people individually. We care about you doing the best you can do, right? So one of those corporations is a real estate firm. And initially I went through, I didn't actually work with the realtors. I worked with the full-time staff, so that would be people that are in charge of pending and listings, and the administrative staff that actually supports all of the realtors. And multiple locations all over Indianapolis and outside of Indianapolis. And the owner of this business just totally got it. And I'll talk a little bit more about him. And he had high individualization, and initially was like, "No, I don't get that one. No, I don't have it." And it ended up being. By the third coaching session, we giggled that this is like one of the most critical things to you being you, right? So I was like, oh, now I get it. But I do think he got it because of his individualization, right? He knew instinctively people are different, and different things are going to, get them going, but he didn't really know how to talk about it. He didn't have the language for it. And what we know about strengths is that that's what it is. It's a language, right? So after I went through everybody initially and we did some group meetings, now what we do is after, at the 1 month anniversary of a new hire, they take the Strength Finder and have a sit down with me. And of course they're already primed for it because everyone has different, and I'm going to actually show you, obviously that just looks like what all of us know, right? So that's on everybody's desk, right? And then they also have posted someplace a certificate of strength, right? So it talks about what's unique about this person. So after the first month, they're kind of like, where's my stuff,
when do I get mine? Yeah.
When do I get mine? And so they're primed and ready. And what I say is, listen, this is a this is a no-threat interaction, right? This is an all-good thing, right? There are no wrong answers, and just be as natural, be yourself as much as you can when you're taking the assessment, and then there's nothing to do to prepare, right? Because I think those are the two things that people are worried about. Like, oh, what do I have to do before I meet with this lady, right? And so we meet and really talk about what do they see, how do they see their future at this organization, and what kind of secret message, and I'm the one that gets to relay that secret message, do you really want to give your supervisor about yourself, right? Well, we know, for instance, with people that are highly strategic, when they're not in a position that really allows them to do a lot of feedback and planning and discussing their great ideas, that's highly frustrating. And so I love being able to kind of put a bug in the supervisor's ear and say, hey, make sure you check in with that person about the insights they're having, right? Because if they feel like, oh, you're just a low-level new employee, you don't have any great insights, the highly strategic person is saying, oh, no, I do. I know I'm 22 years old and I don't look like I might, but they do authentically have great insights. And so it establishes that what we all know is that we love getting complimented on our strengths. When someone sees us using our strengths, that's always the best compliment you could ever give somebody. And it empowers the supervisor to quickly identify those and establish that rapport. So I do that with, I also have another organization. We do a similar kind of thing, usually more around one time during the year. But what I love from some of our feedback this last time was someone wrote, I don't know how we lived before we had this.
Oh,
so sweet, right? And it's like, wow, it's really made an impact on their culture. They knew each other well. They work with each other really closely, but that made a big impact on their culture. So those are the organizational stories. Probably the individual, there are two individual stories that I love, and this was really one of my absolute first coaching clients. She had had a 3-year stint with an employer that really let her down at the end and kind of blindsided her. And then she quickly went to mismatches, a couple jobs that just were not good for her. And so she came to me, and I discuss actually her in my book, and truly she was like a wilted flower. She was truly a lovely young woman inside and out, but she had lost faith in herself. And she absolutely saw her strengths as not being valuable in the workplace. She had heavy relationship building skills, and she wanted to be tougher. She wanted to be more strategic, right? And so she really said, she really felt not valuable. And so even the classic question, tell me something you've achieved in the last 12 months, and it almost brought tears to her because she was so kind of down on herself. So by the third coaching session, she got it, right? And she was just like, oh my gosh. And we were doing a certain package that I do for people who are in the interviewing stages, and we actually go through interview questions and practice how can you answer certain questions with your strengths. And she felt so empowered. She'd had one interview with the organization, and she said it went pretty well. They actually called her back, and she called me after the interview almost crying, right? And saying, it went so well. I felt like a different person. They offered me the job, on and on and on. Well, so her career with the same organization has just been remarkable. She has been promoted. I mean, she was promoted after 6 months. She was already making a lot more money than she had been at her past job. They have seen that because she could articulate what she brought, they quickly saw what she had. And she's been in a great managerial training and been given wonderful opportunities. Every time we see one another, it's just such a love-in because I really helped her recognize what was so wonderful and special about her. So what I really call that is the misidentification of strengths, right? She really needed somebody to pull her out of her funk, right? And to explain to her, are you kidding me? Relationship building skills are critical in every organization. You think empathy is soft? Who else is going to tell people, listen, this isn't going over well with everybody. Let's not be so heavy-handed. It's like, oh, you're right. So
beautiful.
it was really a feel good.
You know, Sarah, that prompts, I love those stories of impact. And you're talking about coaching people. A couple of follow-up threads that are coming to mind for me. One is someone commented from our audience that idea of coaching college students is really intriguing. And that whole idea of working with universities or the sororities, the fraternities. How does that work? How do people pay? Is it the fraternity that says, hey, everybody ought to take StrengthsFinder? Is it through a course? Do you get individuals that come to you? Tell us a little bit about how you can kind of make the most of that opportunity. That might be something some of our other coaches could do if they're near colleges or universities.
So I'm not 100% sure that it's the same for every fraternity or sorority. The ones that I've worked closest with, yes, the fraternity headquarters has paid for, through me. I purchased the codes and they have distributed them, and we have then done either. So remember, we're talking when I'm really talking about working with a headquarters staff. They also, of course, have their own groups. So I've done both, right? The actual students that are in a fraternity or sorority, as well as the internal staff. Obviously, much easier to be working for the fraternity, the fraternal staff, because they're usually, although they're all over the country, they have to come back to headquarters at some point. And it's really just a cost issue when you're trying to float these out, and I'm right now trying to work out with one of the sororities that I work with here in Indianapolis that how can we get that code out there. It's so much a part of their culture. They want alumni, people that are no longer really involved, to be able to do it. They want to be able to, it's such a huge part of the way they see themselves. So we haven't worked out all the kinks. And, part of that is they don't know how much to expect if they just put it on a website that people will react to it. One of the things that we've talked about doing is as they do visits at different cities, that they allow that, they say, okay, we're going to, allow you guys to have 10 StrengthsFinder codes, and this is something we're going to talk about. If you've paid your dues, you get it for free. If you haven't paid your dues, you get it at a cost. So that's one idea or way to use it. In terms of working with college students and even high school students, I have had the privilege of doing both, and I think most of that has come from my book. And so my book, Unstuck at Last, Using Your Strength to Get What You Want. So I was working at the high school level with a group of kids that had been pulled out due to their leadership potential, and they went through lots of different phases. One of the phases at the very beginning was self-identification. So they decided, hey, we really want to use strengths to help them understand themselves. Then I came in and did a presentation. Everyone, in the class got a book. And then recently I did another college course. It was actually for mentors and mentees at a university. And I did a presentation about partnerships and how do you use strengths to make great partnerships between the mentors and mentees. And again, the mentees all got my book, and we encouraged the mentors to buy my book so that they could really talk about it together as a team and use it together. Part of the chapters are really short in my book, but what's the real meat is the exercises. As we know, it's all different for everybody, so it can't be a template. So it's really about the exercises at the end and advising them to do those separately and then come back together and discuss it.
Very good. So you mentioned a client organization earlier and the strengths nameplates and the strengths certificates and people being eager to get their strengths like everybody else in the organization. For that client, and what do you recommend for most of your clients, at what point in the employee's journey should they take StrengthsFinder? When do you deploy that as a tool?
Well, as we know, it's not a hiring tool. And I know that there are very ethical organizations, and I know, Nancy Merrick uses it. Nancy is a great StrengthsFinder coach, and she uses it with her own organization before hiring. But we also know Nancy's not hiring based on strengths, kind of randomly. With these organizations, it's 1 month. They're already, basically, it's saying, okay, the dust is settled. They're kind of, figuring out this job. And now we can see how do you naturally think and feel, and plus, then what are the requirements of this job, and how are those things matching up or not so much?
Yeah. And I think that's a wonderful point in the journey. I oftentimes recommend that because you think about if it's too soon into the person's career, they haven't even kind of figured out the parts and pieces to the role. The conversation is meatier. It's more rewarding for both the coach and the coachee to say, okay, now here's what I've been doing. Oh yeah, here's how I see this strength showing up in the work I'm doing here. So I love that timing.
And
good.
Also exploring.
I'm sorry, Sarah, real quick, let me jump in and say at Gallup, right, it's a similar, right, after your first 30 days, you get a coaching session on top 5, and then 6 months to a year into that, we do all 34, and so that follows that, I think, that a similar model.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to know that. That's new information for me, and so, people love to look to an organization like Gallup and say, we're doing it like them, so I'm really thrilled to hear that. That's wonderful.
Good job. Okay, another thought that came to mind for me, I heard you mention a couple of times, some peak discoveries or some great conversation that came in your third coaching session with a person. I think there's a lot of coaches out there that would love to know, how do you get them to sign up for more than one session or more than 2? I mean, if you're talking 3 sessions, what is it that when you think about kind of your package, what that looks like, how do you package your coaching proposition, and how are you kind of basing, and what's the framework within coaching session number 1 and 2 and 3 about what you're covering and what you're working on with your clients, Sarah?
So it's always a work in progress, right? And I do feel as though I have a pretty good template right now. Of course, the own client's needs obviously trump everything else, right? So, for instance, I'm currently working with an all-female financial consulting firm, and they have just been so much fun to work with. The executives, the planners, decided that they didn't want to know they're all 34. Because one of them said, I don't want to know the bottom. Can we just do top 5? And I'm like,
wow.
Well, of course you can. I mean, right? So I didn't make a big fuss about that. Although it obviously gives you a lot more to talk about, right, in your 3 coaching sessions. The first coaching session, and this is one of the things that I think is so critical. We have these great tools that we all share, right? The tools that Gallup has given us as part of becoming a Gallup-Certified Strengths Coach, they're meaningless unless they're personalized. You have to use them in the way that resonates with you. What you're trying to do is be the authentic you that you can be as a coach. You can't do that if you just use Gallup's tools lock, stock, and barrel. You need to personalize. You need to say, and as we know from many of those questions, some of them are repetitive, and people would look at you like you have 6 heads if you ask them every single one of these. So I have done that. I have really gone through and done a lot of picking and choosing of these wonderful questions, right? What are the ones that really make the most sense to me and that I think are absolutely essential for me to really understand this individual? I know from just watching you, Heather, and other webinars like this that the underlining is so important. Having them go through their own, and I really like the signature themes, not their individualized report, but I want them to really look at of what I know personally of individualization, because I read that definition all the time. What are the pieces of that really resonate? Because that allows me as a coach to be able to say, this works and that doesn't work, and that's what makes you different than this other person with high individualization that I coached 6 days ago, right? Mm-hmm. And so now I understand what makes you different from somebody else. But obviously the highlighting is important, some key questions, but I'm really a stickler, and it's probably the achiever in me. They have got to have a takeaway at the end of session 1. Mm-hmm. I'm sick about it if they don't feel like they're walking away with something. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that's name it, aim it, claim it. You got to do it. They need to have a goal, and it's usually the aha of, okay. Well, what I tell everyone that I coach, almost everyone, is that we all make two errors when we're trying to achieve a goal. And so the first error that most of us make is, I'm going to start thinking about my deficiencies now. Mm-hmm. What are the things I'm terrible at? Instead of really focusing on the goal and things I'm good at, I think I'll come up with all of the reasons why this is impossible for me. So it's like shooting yourself in the foot, right? I mean, that's okay, terrific. Let's walk around wounded. I'll never get this done, So that's a bad idea, but we do it. The second thing that actually sounds a lot more productive, but ultimately isn't the right solution, is we look to what did somebody else do to achieve this goal. So, okay, let's say you want to write a book, or you want to start eating 5 fruits and vegetables every day, or whatever it is. How did that person get it done? And I say, since we've now been through this, the chances that that person is like you is actually 1 in 33 million. Mm-hmm. Right? So there's some things you're going to glean from hearing their story. There's value in it. But it's nothing like looking at your strengths and saying, okay, this is the way I naturally think and feel about the world. These are the things I do best. How do I connect that to the thing that I want to achieve? And that's really my book. It's about, listen, there's only one you out there. Okay, there might be 1.5 of you out there, whatever it is. It's going to be hard to find that person, right? And so why not go for it in terms of individualizing for yourself and maximizing for yourself?
Very good.
That's really, in the name it, aim it, claim it, it's really having them walk away from the first coaching session saying, I get it. And in fact, I was working with a very large electrical contracting organization, and a kind of cynical, super nice guy, but just came right out. This is not gonna happen. I don't think this is really going to be valuable. And he didn't really say that at the get-go, but once I had him, he was like, now I get it. I really didn't think that this, now I get it, because he saw how it all connected together. It wasn't just this some random tool. It was like, how do you use this for you? So that's why. That's really almost always session number 1. Okay. Session number 2 is following up on that. Do you have a question? Sorry.
I do, because someone wanted to know what length of time do you spend on session number 1?
It's only an hour, but we get a lot done in that hour.
Pack it in. Yep.
Well, that's a little my activator achiever competition. I just feel, and it is hard for people that really want to talk a lot, because I have to keep them on track, because obviously that's part of it. It's great for people that aren't big talkers, because I really am unhappy unless it's just been boom, 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 right? And that, again, I think is a little my activator, is that I like a really fast-paced, meaningful feeling, at least to me, and that they're not like, I'm not sure, I don't have a lot to say about this. But that way, for the person that needs to take a lot of time, you keep that person on track. The person that doesn't really have tons to say to you, you act as a little filler to them, just giving them more information about the data, the statistics, the significance, everything that's paired up with engagement, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, cool. Okay, so then what do sessions 2 and 3 look like?
So 2 and 3, and again, part of this I really lay out in my book, because it really is a coaching opportunity for $9.99. You kind of see everything that you get. I probably have given away too much, but the reality is most people want a real person, and then the people that can't have a real person, they deserve it. I want them to have this opportunity. It's wonderful. So. The second session has more to do with many of the things we talk about when we're getting certified, which is motivators, visions, values, and I do use the VIA survey. I know lots of people use that, and I talk about that in terms of what are your values? And what else do I love the visualization exercise, because that was so profound for me, right? The visualization just really was like, wow, I love that. And one of the things I do in group meetings, and maybe other people do this too, but it's I will I'll make big posters of everybody in the group's vision, and then other people have to say, okay, I think that one is this person. I think that person's is the pebbles stacked or whatever it is. So people really kind of like that. It's fun. It's almost like the baby picture thing where, have you ever done that, where everyone brings in a baby picture and you have to figure out, okay, who in the group is this and the baby? It's a little bit like that, except it's related to strengths.
And very good.
And so
another question that's come in, do you ever use Strengths Quest when your clients are college age students? Do you use that Strengths Quest experience at all?
So, just so that everyone's aware, the Strength Quest assessment is the Strength Finder assessment. They are one and the same. Okay, so I think that can be confusing to people. They're not different assessments, so I just want to clarify that. There is a Strength Quest book. And the Strength Quest book is really a wonderful guide if you are coaching people that are high school level or college level, because what their primary concern is, what should I study? What's my career? How does this speak to me, right? And so that resource is really something I encourage every single coach to purchase. It is a wonderful tool to help center people, and right. It's just like everything that we have at our disposal. It's not about corralling people. It's about saying, talk to other people in these various fields and see what really makes the most sense to you. And I really like that vantage point, and I've seen that it really does give individuals a lot of help.
That's fabulous. So, a couple of things here. Someone asked if you were to share kind of the 30-second elevator speech of how do you get unstuck. They have, by the way, purchased your book on Kindle, so they have a copy of the book. But if you were to give an elevator speech, what would that be on how people can know their strengths and become unstuck?
I can't believe I don't have this prepared. It's a great question. So the elevator speech is, many of us know our strengths, but we still don't know the first thing to do to actualize them. The book is a helpful guide of exercises and insights from somebody, myself, who was stuck and probably really underutilizing my own strengths to think about, what is it that I really want? And what we know is that strengths is one of the first, understanding your strengths is really the first step to getting what you want, because it will really speak to you about what makes me unique, what makes me, I think most of us as children were told you're unique and special, but then what? What do I do with that? The book is about what then.
Very good. So you mentioned people sometimes pick favorite strengths that, even though they're all fabulous, that we still play favorites. I think people would probably be curious to know, do you have a favorite strength of yours or of the whole 34?
Well, it's a great question again. I have a love-hate with significance, so I actually think I'm going to talk about that. It's a very misunderstood strength. I think that people are uncertain about having it as their own strength, and I certainly have felt that way. But it allows me to do these crazy things, right? It allows me to write a book. It allows me to speak in front of thousands of people. It allows me to push myself, because part of when we really think about significance is wanting to do something important. Resting on your laurels is like almost impossible if you're both high competition and significant. So the idea of just thinking about what I did yesterday, an achiever too, right? I mean, every day is zero, and I've got to do something better than the last day, or I'll feel like horrible about myself. And that makes me. And there are times where you think this is ridiculous, and then there are other times where you think, hey, it's gotten me where I am, and I love where I am. So it's all good.
You know, Sarah, you share that significance. I'm so glad you picked significance. I was hoping you would, because Don Clifton had significance in his top 5 too. And years ago, he used to say, what if? What if people knew their strengths? What if we had a tool to help more people know their strengths? And the dream and the vision really has become, like you said earlier, lots of people have taken the Strengths Finder. Over 13 million people now know their strengths, but unless they have a coach in their life that helps them go from just knowing to really that application, which, you know, through Unstuck, that's what you're helping people do, is go from just knowing to actually awareness and application. That's huge. And so I love that your significance is a favorite for you, and I love that it's kind of brought you full circle to really think about how you can impact people's lives through your coaching practice. And it's wonderful for you to share some of your tricks of the trade with the rest of us today. So I think everybody would appreciate that that's something you and Don Clifton had in common, and I think he would have welcomed you with open arms to the mothership. Jim,
that is so sweet. Thank you.
I'm sure we have some other questions that you want us to wrap up with, Jim.
Well, we are out of time at this point, and we're not really. We could go on forever, but we've got to wrap this up here at some point. Sarah, thank you for jumping in here and doing this. I think this is the new book I recommend. People say, you know, I took StrengthsFinder, now what? Like, what's the next step? And I think, and we'll remind individuals, $4.99 on Kindle, by the way, if you want to $9.99 if you want to buy the book. Thanks for sending me a copy, Sarah. I appreciate maybe I shouldn't have said that in front of Heather.
Heather, did I not give you one? That's awful. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
No,
I know you like
it'll be in the mail tomorrow.
I'm better than Heather anyway.
Hey,
so
whoa, time out, everybody. This is my high significance talking. One of the things that everybody, Jim, hint, needs to do if they're given a book is write a review on Amazon. But oh my gosh, they are heartbreaking. I mean, it is the most fulfilling thing. If you have a bad day, you just go to your Amazon page and read the reviews and think, that's so sweet.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome indeed.
It's the best. It's the best.
Very cool. Well, if you haven't, we've dropped the link in the chat room if you want to get it from there. But you can just go to Amazon and put in Get Unstuck or Get Unstuck in there, and you'll find that.
Unstuck at last.
Yeah.
Unstuck at last.
If you can only remember one thing, just put Unstuck.
Good point.
In there.
Good
point. I think it's the very first one that pops up. When I did that. Just a reminder, we talked about StrengthsFinder and StrengthsQuest as books. If you log in now to either one of our sites, if you are a StrengthsQuest user, that ebook is now available for free on the website. So if you didn't get the book, but you were a StrengthsQuest user, you can now log in and get that book for free. We also made it available for free on the Gallup Strengths Center side. So if you're a Gallup Strengths Center user, if you took 2.0, through our Strengths Center, and you can log into that. The 2.0 ebook is available for free as well. You can download those. We just recently made those available to you. And this next week, we will hit 13 million. I am pretty confident next week. So Thanksgiving, we have a lot to be thankful for here in the United States.
Oh, that's
Thanksgiving
exciting.
is next week for us, and we will hit, I'm pretty sure, we will hit Thanksgiving. We have a little pool going on. No money is exchanging hands, but we have a little pool going on the Facebook group. Go to facebook.com/groups/call-to-coach. Even if you're not a coach, this should be a website that you're on, because we do a lot of talk around StrengthsFinder on that site, and we want to make we'll make it available to just ask, and I will let you in. And we have some 5,000 people in that group now that you can get advice and ask questions, and all kinds of great links and posts get put in there, and so we want to invite you to that as well. I also remind you to take full advantage of all the resources we have available at the Gallup Strengths Center, just gallupstrengthscenter.com. Send us your questions or comments. You can send those to us in an email. We like those too. We like getting those kinds of comments too. When you send those to us, like, Jim, that was a great webcast. Love it. So that makes me feel good. So send us an email, and it's good for my boss. Coaching@gallup.com is what we want to hear from you on that. And again, the coach's blog has the links to everything. So if you need one place to go to find out all the resources available to you, go to coaching.gallup.com. If you have an idea for if you'd like to contribute to our coach's blog, maybe you're an aspiring writer, we are interviewing guest writers. Send us an email to that coaching@gallup.com, and in the subject line put guest blogger, and we'll get back with you and run you through the interview for that. Don't forget, we have tons of resources, iPhone apps, Android apps, all kinds of things. There's no reason you should be disconnected from your top 5 if you can't remember them. Put them on your phone and then you can look them up any time you'd like. Heather, we have a bunch of courses for coaches coming up in 2016.
Yes.
Are there any you're ready to highlight? I didn't prep you for that in advance, but
the calendar is out there on the site. It's just, the usual. The Accelerated Strengths course is just ever growing in popularity. So we've added lots of accelerated weeks in beyond our typical locations. So I've heard there will be one in Orlando for some of our Florida friends. Benjamin's trying to, I have not told my children because I have one in particular that keeps saying, when can we go on an airplane again, Mom? And I think he would like to go facilitate that one with me because it's near and dear, nice and close to the guy with the ears. Yes. But we also are still offering combinations of successful strengths coaching, coaching for individual performance, coaching for managers and teams. High Performance Manager is coming to a city near you. Lots and lots this coming year. So lots of different opportunities to continue to strengthen the journey and to invite your fellow strengths enthusiasts to get their certification as well.
For sure. Though the complete list, no matter when you're listening to this, Gallup-Strengthscenter.com, scroll down and it'll say courses. And just check that out. We are offering those all around the world. We want to thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed it, we'll ask you to share it. Share the link with somebody, send it on, and let's make this one go viral. And we look forward to the next Call to Coach. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.